about a language requirement, second language acquisition, that we take very seriously. Now is a really lousy time to be monolingual. That's what we say to our students just point blank. But also we realize that there is more to it than second language acquisition. And you will hear us refer to global fluency because it starts with linguistic aptitude. And then it moves in tandem and in concert with cultural intelligence and world impact skills. Our students, if they're really going to become global leaders, need the full package. And that's what we're after. We'll have, thank you students for coming today. We'll see students moving in and out today during the sessions as they keep their schedules in their courses, and you'll hear from some of them at a minute. I love hearing from students. So does Hilton. Okay. It puts the energy in what we do when they share their vision. But we also know the reality that their vision is grounded in the reality that our world and world community is under stress. And we can name off the escalators. I bet you can name them right off. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the war in Afghanistan, East and South China Sea, North Korea, United States and Iran, criminal violence in Mexico, Boko Haram in Nigeria, Venezuela, Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and you can keep the list going. So when I first met Joseph Bild, an EWI board member that you know, some of you very well, this is the first question he asked me. How is it that you propose to teach students to engage in conflict resolution? What are you going to do? It's a really good question. In fact, it probably is the question. How do we educate? How do we mentor our students? How do we mentor ourselves, for goodness sakes? To move people out of and away from entrenched conflict. Well, we have accepted that challenge, and EWI accepted that challenge. And your presence here today is indication that we still believe in the essential power of human creativity, communication, and determined kindness to make a difference and to build trust and bring healing. And I propose that there is energy for conflict resolution in two things. Two things. Difference and dinner parties. I swear by this. Democracy was formed in that small, insignificant city-state of Athens based on difference and festivals. While a student, John Edwin, founded a literary festival at Notre Dame, and that was smart because most exchanges go back to literature because it encodes culture in one way or another. And so as a classicist by heart and by training, I'm going to return to literature this morning, specifically epic, and the hymn to Hermes. The singer tells us that Hermes was taking a walk through the wild. We often do this in the woods. I have a property in North Carolina, and I enjoy doing that. And as he was walking around, he looked down and he saw a tortoise shell. So he picked it up, held it, looked at it, and then he put holes in the end, and he interwove it with uneven strings of different lengths. They were not the same. And then he took and he struck those different strings until they began to sound and resound back and forth and back and forth. Through tension in the invention of lyre, Hermes brought the uneven into accord, not by depreciating difference, but by understanding and utilizing it. Hermes' creation, you see, which formed the basis of Greek education, reveled in a pluralistic mindset. The invention of the lyre and the fundamental place learning to play it held in Greek education involves more than recognizing difference. Recognizing difference is easy. And it's also not about repressing or erasing difference, which is simplistic and brutal. You could do that. The art in statecraft, the art is rather musical. It's lyrical. Like Hermes, you reach down and you pick up difference. You hold it. You cradle it. You pluck it. You massage it and come to know it. And then you begin to tune it until the difference begins to resound back and forth, blending together to form a seductive symphony of thought and experience. Bringing from symphony from difference requires human skills, risk-taking. It takes you into some places that are uncomfortable, sometimes downright dangerous. Vulnerability, creativity, trust, faithfulness, and a whole lot of tenacious patience. And these most human qualities require a space to be nurtured so that they can grow, thrive, in short, so that they have time to become practiced and smart. This space is what the Greeks and the Russian literary critic and philosopher Mikhail Bakhtin called the festival or comic world, the carnival world. Offering such a festival, a protected communal space for exchange, is at the heart of the academy. We refer to it by that old-fashioned name, the liberal arts. And it was at the heart of EWI from the beginning. So I'd like to play now just a short audio clip with Karen's permission. Thank you for giving permission. Karen's oral history about their house in Western Massachusetts. So Jesse, if you could bring that clip up for us to hear.
Incredible. And one of the big original, I mean, this is kind of behind the scenes stuff, but we had a house up in Western Massachusetts. And in that community was a community rich of individuals whose heritage was reflected in the fellows we had. So we brought all the fellows to this Western. We had families adopt them. So if you were of Polish heritage, you could have the Polish fellow, Czech, you could have Czech, et cetera, et cetera. And we had them for 3 days. We had activities, we had discussions, we brought people in for the day. And that was the kind of relaxed atmosphere that paid off in bundles and bundles. How did that pay off? Well, there were times when there was a conflict like what's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now, where we knew the outside players. At one time, everybody sitting around the SALT talks, NATO, the MERV, they were all Institute alum. And so it's like the delegates lounge at the UN, not to offend anyone from the UN, but that's where those things happen, and we could call upon them. And if John were here right now, he'd be calling upon all those resources to come together and meet in some odd place in a relaxed environment to talk and just start a dialogue and start a process. And I think that starting a dialogue, again, going back to that medical non-silo, they're all in silos. And here's John creating bridges across the silos, running back and forth and back and forth. And which would make a great political cartoon if I could draw it. But the idea is that he always had that prescribed sense, the diagnostic prescription in mind, and in a relaxed atmosphere that I think contributed. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but
Yeah.
those were the early days of starting all of that.
It's no coincidence that one of the first things that happens when a nationalistic movement comes into power or moves towards totalitarianism, that one of the first things that occurs is the suppression of the arts, especially comedy. So, difference in dinner tables, the carnival world. And I propose, of course, that as we've been building this together, the Global Leadership Institute, that this is what the Global Leadership Institute purposes to do: to provide students, in fact, all of its participants, with a relaxed and protected environment where we can explore and learn together the power of synthesized difference, so that we are ready when we are called upon and put in that situation to create the same experience for the world at large. Well, now it's time for Max Kovalov to tell you about the individual programs that we have going and to introduce some students to talk about their experience. Max.
Thank you very much, Tim, for outlining the vision of the Mroz Institute. And I want to talk to you about the program. So we started the Mroz Institute with this idea that we want to help generate the next, or to help cultivate the next generation of leaders out of today's students. The mission of the Mroz Institute is to help our students develop the skills of global fluency and help them get interested in diplomacy and international affairs. And the programs that I'm going to briefly talk about are not standalone programs. They are designed to take international experiential learning and make it systemic through the coursework, through the college curriculum, so that no matter what the career our students pursue, whether it's in private sector or in public sector or NGOs or government, students will gain the international experiences they need. So a couple of programs I want to mention. The first one is the World Affairs Colloquium Series, and that program is designed to bring to campus prominent international speakers with international experience to stimulate discussions with our faculty, with our students, with members of the community. Last year we had several really good speakers. We hosted Richard Haas, the president of the Council on Foreign Relations. We hosted Alan Rock, the former Canadian ambassador to the UN, Deborah James, the 23rd Secretary of the Air Force, General Ben Hodges, David Feinstein, who is in the audience with us, the president of the Bush-China Foundation. These discussions have been essential and are essential for us, for our students, to understand the interconnected nature of the world and the challenges that we are facing today. Another project that we launched about a year ago, that was the EWI History and Archives project. And this project was launched in partnership with our libraries to facilitate the preservation and the availability of the EWI materials, manuscripts, images, photos, videos. And we will have a panel dedicated to this project tomorrow morning. And there will be an exciting panel of discussants, so they will be able to talk about this project. And one caveat: if you are interested in contributing to the Oral History Project, I encourage you to, and there are sign-up sheets outside at the desk. Please write your name, contact information, and Emily Whalen will be in touch about this project. We also launched the EWI Visiting Fellows program, and that program is designed to bring to campus prominent international leaders for longer two-week periods, two-week visits. And we hope the visiting fellows will be engaging their international networks, and they will be bringing people who are leaders, who are addressing, who are talking, who are practicing, who are talking about important issues, and who are involved in policy making to address important challenges. And so we hope that international fellows would organize mentoring sessions for our students, will engage their networks, will facilitate public talks and discussions. And those are designed to be longer two-week periods. And again, if you are interested to be one of the fellows, there's a sign-up sheet outside. If you have ideas about this. If you don't have ideas but you're interested in helping, please sign up and we will be happy to talk about this. Damon Wilson, one of our guests, is Damon here with us this morning? Well, he will present tomorrow, but then he is our first visiting fellow, and then he will be joining us for a talk tomorrow and for a panel discussion. But he's come with us today, this weekend, and he will be returning to Charleston in April. Finally, I want to highlight a student-oriented program, the Global Ambassadors Program. And the Global Ambassadors Program is a year-long program designed for students who are interested in globally oriented careers. And those are careers that they can be in foreign service, in civil service, or careers for students who are globally minded, internationally minded, and students who are interested in working for government or think tanks. Last year we recruited 7 global ambassadors, and 2 of them are joining us today to share their perspective. And so let me introduce to you Jocelyn Bellomo and Liza Malcolm.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Jocelyn Bellomo. I am a junior here at the College of Charleston. I double major in political science and international studies, and this academic year I had the opportunity to participate in the Global Ambassadors Program. It has truly been one of the most enriching experiences I've had at the college thus far. The program is essentially a professional development program, both by honing our practical skills and connecting us to a rich network of other professionals. We have met weekly since August, and during these weekly meetings, each student prepares a memo on developments around the world. We then discuss these memos and how our events may or may not relate to each other and how it is affecting America's foreign policy. We also we've had very close meetings with professionals such as Mr. David Firestein, the president of the Bush-China Foundation, Mr. Damon Wilson, the president and CEO of the National Endowment for Democracy, Mr. Brian Finley, the president and CEO of the Simpson Center, and Mr. Alan Rock, the former Canadian ambassador to the United Nations. Just one example of these meetings, I had the opportunity to attend dinner with Ambassador Alan Rock, and he discussed Canada's leading effort to implement responsibility to protect in the United Nations and refugees crises and other humanitarian efforts. And it was just a very nice moment to get to talk with him very personally and create a meaningful connection. One of the most amazing experiences of this program was our trip to Washington, D.C. this spring break, where we went to the National Endowment for Democracy and met with Damon Wilson and members of his staff, and they gave us practical advice about what they actually do and real solid advice that was more than just a 5-minute interaction. We also went to the Simpson Center and met with Brian Finley, and these experiences really opened my eyes and guided me to what I want to do after my education. My main goal is to hopefully one day work for the United Nations, and anything in humanitarian, human rights affairs. But I am so grateful to have had this opportunity thanks to the Mroz Institute.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Liza Malcolm. I'm a sophomore in the Honors College at College of Charleston. I am a double major in international studies with a regional concentration on Latin America and the Caribbean. I am also a major in public health. I also have a data science and political science minor, so I do a lot of things. During my time at College of Charleston, the Global Ambassadors program has been one of the most formative professional development opportunities for me and my peers. It has offered me unique mentoring opportunities, lecture invitations, and close conversations with very impressive foreign service officers and civil service leaders. For instance, one conversation with Danny Jones, a foreign service officer, cemented my decision to study Mexico and Brazil, as his insights from his posting in Mexico shed substantial light on the key foreign policy issues in the region, including political backsliding and migration, and how it impacts the United States. I was also very fascinated by the conversation with Deborah James. Deborah James's insights led me to not fear challenges, as her denial from the Foreign Service led her to a very fruitful career as the 23rd Secretary of the Air Force. So I am not afraid to confront some challenges and some failures along the way. In addition to these great conversations that I had with these key foreign service and international leaders, I was also afforded the opportunity to hone my concise writing skills. I also was able to apply some key theoretical lenses to foreign policy issues happening around the world, including a realist, idealistic, constructivist, and liberalist lens to these things. In addition, our trip to Washington, D.C. was a culmination of all of the knowledge about theories and key foreign policy issues that we've been learning in the classroom. For instance, our conversation with a USAID leader, senior technical analyst Matita Watson, made me understand the importance of having field experience, as his experience in Guinea and Senegal helped him really expand on the US's foreign aid and its development around the world. Also, our conversation with Annalene Rogman from the Observer Research Fund was very, very informative, as she encouraged more and more students to engage in research in cybersecurity. And as a data science minor, this really appealed to me, and I hope that my generation will invest more time in ensuring cyber stability. I just want to thank everyone who made this program possible, and I believe it will launch me into a career of international service and help me grow as a global citizen scholar. Thank you.
Thank you, Liza and Jocelyn, for your remarks and for sharing your experiences. I now want to introduce to you Professor Bryan Ganaway, who is the Director of International Scholars Program.
Hello, friends. My name is Bryan Ganaway. As Max said, I am the director of the International Scholars Program. I just want to briefly introduce it. It is an LCWA initiative, and the Honors College does participate in it. It seeks to identify 9 to 10 nationally competitive students every year who have international career foci and bring them to the C of C. And on this campus, they major in international studies in the second major of their choice, and these run the gamut. So Liza is also in this program, and she's public health, for example, and you'll hear from these students. But essentially, if I can link it back to Tim, so these are students that already know they want to engage with the world, and we're grounding them in language, culture, and world affairs. The students receive a number of tangible benefits for joining the program. These include study abroad and professional mentoring from the advisory board. But really, before I close, what I want to focus on is outcomes. So what we're contributing to. So of the 90 students admitted to the program, 95% have graduated from the college, so we're Harvard-like in that regard. They represent about 0.5% of the student body, but they've earned 18% of the nationally competitive awards over the last 10 years. They've been admitted to graduate schools, here we go, that includes Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Michigan, and North Carolina. Law schools that include Virginia, Boston U, NYU, and Washington University in St. Louis, and medical school at Florida, MUSC, and USC. Most of the ones in the workforce are at startups. They're smaller companies, but one is at Amazon. Another one started at Accenture, and now she's at her own company. And then one of them is at Calvin Klein, where she's a 26-year-old director of media relations somehow. In the nonprofit world, the students have gone on to the Buffett Foundation, and speaking of refugees, the International Rescue Agency. So the International Rescue Agency's manager of Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria is a CFC grad. And then, of course, Teach for America and Venture for America. But anyway, it's better to hear from the students. So I'm going to get out of the way, and we're going to start with Amelia, who's a senior, and then we're going to go on to Andrea, who is a sophomore. Okay?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you all for coming to Charleston. My name is Amelia Olson. I am a senior at the college. I am studying international studies with a regional concentration in Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as public health, and I'm on the pre-med track. Coming into undergraduate, I knew I wanted to be a doctor, but I also knew that I wanted to work in global health, and I wanted to develop language, cultural competency, and a better understanding of global systems. International scholars is really what drew me to the College of Charleston, because I wanted to be in an environment that would cultivate an interdisciplinary kind of method of study, and that really has worked out for me. I've been able to study the hard sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities in my coursework. Throughout my time, I've been able to conduct research with international studies, mainly oral history research, both local oral history and oral history research with Sierra Leone involving COVID. I also have been able to work as an EMT on campus, which I've been supported by International Studies and the Honors College as well. For my post-grad plans, I'm considering doing a Fulbright in Sweden to pursue a master's in global health or pursue Peace Corps in Latin America before I go to med school. And my career goals involve working in humanitarian aid as an emergency physician, specifically looking at refugee populations and how to create more sustainable responses in humanitarian aid. The International Scholars Program has been especially beneficial in supporting study abroad. I've actually been able to study abroad on 5 continents before COVID. So after our freshman year, we had a cohort experience in Estonia for 2 weeks. We looked at Estonia's transition to democracy, which is especially relevant right now considering the situation in Ukraine. Then I did a global health-focused study abroad where we went to Vietnam, South Africa, and Argentina and looked at comparative healthcare systems. Finally, I studied abroad in Cuba right before COVID through the Latin American Studies Department. I was also able to look at their healthcare system, which is fairly unique and is a very interesting perspective coming from the United States. So I've been very, very grateful for this experience, and it definitely has informed how I will practice as a physician and a global health leader. So I just want to thank Dr. Ganaway and LACWA.
Yeah, and Amelia, are you a semifinalist for a Fulbright right now?
I am a semifinalist. Thank you, guys.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea Kimson, and I am actually a junior here at the college. I'm majoring in international studies as well as economics with minors in political science and Spanish. So I will also say that ISP is what drew me to the school. Before hearing about the college, I'd kind of written it off, and then I heard from Dr. Ganaway and presented all these opportunities about this amazing program and said, this is a really great place with really great people who are supportive and interested in my development as a global citizen, as a global scholar. And so I took that opportunity. I'm grateful for it. I will say from the very beginning, I think this program does a really great job of emphasizing community. We are placed in a class together our freshman year where we have that intro course to international studies. And so you develop these strong relationships with people that carry throughout your 4 years here at the college. And that is a unique experience that a lot of students don't get. And so having the opportunity as we've all grown and changed together has been really impactful for me as I better understand myself and my position in the world, as well as that of my peers. I would also be remiss if I didn't point out the networking opportunities. There are so many opportunities afforded to us as people in this program. The opportunities to connect with the advisory board, opportunities to connect with the ambassador series, all the colloquiums that we have, they really go a long way in increasing our networks, expanding our connections in ways that a lot of students, again, don't have an opportunity to receive. I would also like to point out the mentorship opportunities. So in our sophomore year, we are paired with a member of the advisory board who kind of takes us under their wing to tell us about their profession, their path, and their studies. For me, that has been very impactful. I like to have someone to kind of bounce ideas off of, and so they have served that role very admirably in building us as professionals and as leaders in a global society. And then I would also like to point out the interdisciplinary focus of the program. I came into the college knowing that I wanted to double major. I have too many interests to focus on just one. And so hearing that being promoted and encouraged was a big plus for me. So I was able to engage with multiple areas of thought, which is actually really reflective of what happens in a global environment. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything is multidisciplinary. So that focus, encouraging you to double major, encouraging you to double minor, and even go beyond that, is a real benefit of this program. And I would also like to point out all the professors that we have in the colloquium series, they come from a variety of different specialties. So hearing their perspectives, their different takes on issues, bringing those specialties into the conversation has been very impactful for me as a student. So I would also like to say thank you all so much for supporting initiatives like this. They bring really excellent students to the college. I'm not just saying that because I'm in it, but there are really cool people here that do incredible work to encourage scholarship and leadership in a global mindset. So thank you all for that support. Yeah.
It is my pleasure now to introduce you to one of our alumni. We have several here this morning. You'll see Diane Price, too, to get to know her, and also Marianne Robinson. They both work at State, and it's my pleasure now to introduce another of our alumni to talk to her. I'll allow her to introduce herself, but this is Susan Storey.
Well, I tell you what, when Tim asked me to do this, I didn't know I was going to follow these 4 rock star students. This is a little daunting. And I'm old, so I have notes. I can't just speak off the cuff like those students did. My name is Susan Storey. I'm a 1993 graduate of the Honors College here at the College of Charleston. It is such a great pleasure to be here today with all of you. I live in Bogota, Colombia now, but when I was here at the college, I never expected to have an international career or a lifestyle. I had a great education. I had a fantastic liberal arts education with a double major in econ and business administration. And I thought I would work probably in South Carolina for the rest of my life because that's what people from Moncks Corner, South Carolina do. They just work in Moncks Corner for the rest of their lives. Fast forward a little bit, and now in the 29 years since I've graduated, I have spent about 18 of those years overseas in 3 different continents, 5 different countries, 8 different cities in those five countries. So life pulls you along how it wants to pull you along. Now, thanks to the amazing work of the LCWA and the Mroz Institute, students at the College of Charleston have a path forward. They can imagine a life overseas. They can imagine an international life. And beyond imagining that, they can train for it. They can be educated for it. They're prepared to go out in this very global world that we're living in. I love, and that's capital L-O-V-E, I love that LCWA wasn't named something generic like the School of International Relations or the School of Global Affairs. I have a 19-year-old son who's studying at another university in the School of Global Affairs. This puts a really fine point on what these students are learning and what they need to take with them when they go out into the world. These pillars, to me, 3 pillars, the language, the culture, and the world affairs, are probably the most important 3 things. I don't know if these students would agree, the most important 3 things that you can take with you out into the world. I know from personal experience that those 3 things can make or break you. And I think this is why Tim asked me to speak, because I'm the cautionary tale. These students are, coming out guns blazing. I did not come out guns blazing. When we first moved to Guadalajara, I was 6 years out of the College of Charleston, and my husband's in the State Department. It was our first tour overseas together. I studied French for a long time, and you'll be surprised to know they don't speak French in Mexico. So I rolled into Mexico. I'd had plenty of months to study. We knew we were going to Mexico. I could have studied Spanish, but I thought it was going to all sort of fall into place somehow when I got there. And what I learned very quickly is that it is hard to function without the language in a place, if you want to really dive deep. And you don't even have to really want to dive deep. You just want to go to the grocery store, and if you can't find where the mustard is, but you can't ask where the mustard is, you're done. Like, there's no going forward. And that's before you get to the dinner parties. And I agree, dinner parties, there's so much that happens at a dinner party. But if you cannot even understand a joke at a dinner party, and you're the one who's always laughing 2 seconds behind because you realized it was a joke and everybody's laughing except you, you've missed the whole boat. And that's before you get to negotiating deals overseas. That's before you are working for a company and they're like, oh my goodness, the US sanctions are against us now, so how do we navigate that? That's the hard stuff. A joke at a dinner party is the easy stuff, and language skills bring you to that. Language skills bring you to cultural, how do they word it? Cultural intelligence. They bring you there in a way that otherwise, you're going to flounder. So if language and culture and world affairs form 3 corners of our building, the 4th corner, I think, has to be this offering of access to students that they've talked about. For those of us like me, who grew up in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, I didn't know international business people. There was nobody in my family that did that. There was, we didn't have any friends that were going out in the world and doing really cool things. So to be able to offer study abroad, internships, mentorships, fellowships, networking. I mean, for students to be here with you today, to be able to network in person, like, that's a gift that for so many students, they'll never have that opportunity. So I would encourage you just to take the time. If the students want to speak to you, take the time and speak to them. And I just want to say one last thing, because I know we are behind. Just because a student studies, has an international education, doesn't mean they're going to necessarily work overseas. I looked this up. The South Carolina Department of Commerce website says that there are more than 1,200 international firms operating in South Carolina. Majority-owned, foreign-affiliated companies employ more than 158,000 South Carolinians. That's 7% of the state's private sector employment. So imagine these students who are so full of everything. Imagine they go to a job interview for a company like Michelin, for a company like Volvo, for a company like BMW, for a company like Bosch that has its headquarters elsewhere but is positioned here in South Carolina. They show up, they speak the language, they have possibly done an internship in the country that is the home country of that company. their cultural quotient, their cultural intelligence is off the charts. They're going to stand out. They're the student that makes, or the graduate when they show up at the interview, they're the student that makes the impact. They stand out head and shoulders above everybody. You cannot value the, overstate the value of international skills in education, I think. I applaud the program, I applaud LCWA, I applaud the Mroz Institute for really putting their money where their mouth is. These students are so prepared, they're going out in the world, and they are going to show up in Mexico speaking Spanish, and they're going to set the world on fire, I'm sure of it. Thank you.
If you can't hear me, let me know. Okay? You can scream back at me. We have a start, and one of the things that helps us are our alumni, because one of my first questions to someone like Susan is, when you came out of the College of Charleston, what did it not do for you that you need? Right? What do we have to do now and put in place to make sure our students are equipped, okay, to go and have a path forward? Now, we have just a smidgen of a start. There's a lot more to do. My favorite two words, well, if you contract them, are what's next. All right? Well, we want to keep producing next-gen student success by building out our programming. All right? There are other programs to put in place. The EWI Fellows has to come into place. We need to continue to actualize the EWI network by having your participation and involvement. That has to move forward and happen. That's a big benefit for our students. And of course, I'm the dean. I am going to talk about money. We have a program ongoing now to endow the international scholars. It's been run off of recurring money, and the Smiths have been very kind in continually funding that program. It's time to endow it now, and they have put forward a matching program opportunity. If you are interested in that support, we're glad to have it. Okay, that's our next endowment challenge that we have coming up. Now, thank you, Max. Max is already tired of having me scream at him. We have a little bit, we are running into coffee time, but there's about 4 more minutes. We can continue this conversation throughout the conference, but I'm interested in hearing from you and what we can do and what you're thinking. Okay, are there any questions right now that you'd like to ask? Yes, Dorta. How much do we need to raise? We need to raise $600,000 more to have that program fully funded. It's about half that endowment is raised now. Well, I like that. The one question was, how much do we need? That's a great question. Yeah, that's true. It can go higher. Okay, there's no problem with excelling and exceeding. Yeah, that sounds like my father. Yeah. Yes, Karen.
Tim, Susan and I are very fortunate to have been part of the mentoring program, so
Yeah.
I'm a student. I'm probably scared to death, but instead of saying I'll meet you by Zoom, I'm on campus. Let's meet face to face. But if there is mentoring opportunities, we have so many wonderful EWI folks here. Are you open to having other mentors maybe let you know they'd be interested in mentoring a student?
The mentoring program is in place for international scholars, but we need mentors for the global ambassadors. Okay, so that's a very good point, and we can include that on the sign-up sheet out here. There is no replacing, okay, being able to put these students in contact with a thought leader who's been in that and done that. Okay, that's just priceless. Thank you, Karen. Well, the coffee's in the back and drinks. The restrooms are out the door. But I want to call your attention to that sign that was made in 2006. And the dean at the time, Sam Hines, brought that in of LCWA. And it blew me away because at the bottom of that, it says building a leadership program. I just want to suggest that that kind of stuff just doesn't happen. Somehow it fits together and it works. And you end up being in a space because a lot of people did a lot of good thinking and thought and work along the way. And one of that was John Edwin Mroz, who in fact suggested the name for the School of Languages, Cultures, and World Affairs. So, welcome home, and enjoy the coffee, and a break will start up again.